Welcome to IDRF.
Hi, hi. Thank you.
Abhilaksh, I tried speaking to you, but I didn't get a response. Are you there, Abhilaksh? There's something wrong, huh, Abhilaksh and Vinay?
Abhilaksh Grover. He is in the participant list, but his name, yeah,
नहीं है वो.
he's muted actually.
I don't think he's speaking anything. वो भाग गया होगा कहीं, बाथरूम चले गया होगा.
हाँ हो सकता है. Otherwise he I think he's muted.
हाँ हाँ. अच्छा, so I'll start. Bharat, in fact, why don't you start यार? तुम्हारा ये बेबी है. ये तो मतलब मैंने तो पढ़ लिया है, but तुम start करो.
Roshan, I'll just give a factual background to everyone, right? So, Mr. Oswal, this case belongs to the shares basically held by late Mr. Abhay Kumar Oswal. So, he had shareholding basically in two listed companies, which is Oswal Agro Mill Limited and Oswal Green Tech Limited, right? So, he passed away in 2016. So, leaving behind two sons, one wife, and one daughter. So, one son, wife, and daughter are on one side, and one son, Pankaj Oswal, who is the respondent number one in this judgment, is on the other side. So, basically, prior to his death, Mr. Oswal had nominated the wife as nominee in her shareholding in his DMAT account, right, wherein he held all his shares in listed and unlisted companies. So after the death of Mr. Oswal, the son started claiming his share in the one fourth share in the estate, including the shares. So since mother replied back saying, look, first you have nothing to inherit. Secondly, these shares are to the exclusion of all other nominees by virtue of this section 72. She refused her any, one-fourth in these shares. Then he filed a civil suit, partition suit before the High Court, claiming one-fourth in the shares as well as other properties, bank accounts, and everything. Interestingly, High Court was pleased before the suit was filed, the shares were transmitted by the company, which is a government company, in favor of the nominee by saying that you are a nominee and shares will go to you. Obviously, they on merits did not say whether it belongs to you or it has to be divided among all legal heirs, but they transferred it in her DMAT. So High Court passed a status quo order that these shares will no third party right will be created by Ms. Aruna Oswal for these shares. Now, after 1 year, maybe 1 year or so, the son started losing patience that now civil suit will go on for years and all. He filed a petition under section 241, 242 before Chandigarh NCLT because this company, Oswal Agro Mills, is registered in Ludhiana. So NCLT Chandigarh had the jurisdiction. Now, surprisingly, out of many reliefs which he sought, one of the reliefs was recognize him as shareholder for one-fourth of the shares. So this relief, according to me, is repetition. The same relief he has claimed in the partition suit and the identical relief he wanted to claim in a summary manner. So once the notice was issued in this matter, the company and Ms. Oswal went before the NCLAT saying that this petition is not maintainable by virtue of 244. He does not hold one tenth of the shares in the company and 10% of the shares. So this petition is not maintainable. So the NCLAT remitted back the matter to NCLT and told NCLT to decide the preliminary objection of the companies as well as Mrs. Oswal regarding the same. So now one of the interesting point is Roshan in this, which the other side missed out and was pointed out during the hearing. Even if you don't hold 10% of the shares of the company, you can always seek waiver of the same. But in the present case, the petitioner was so confident that he is entitled to this share, he did not seek waiver. He said, no, I have shares, so I don't need a waiver. So NCLT dismissed the application and NCLT held that by virtue of his being a legal heir, he is entitled to those shares and his petition is maintainable. Our objections before the NCLT was that, see, it is the civil court, which is the
So
high court.
I think Bharat, let me just quickly step in here and first open up the house for this proposition. And you know, this is open to everyone. So basically, guys, as we all know that an operation mismanagement is a statutory remedy. It's a remedy which is special in nature, and it's a specific remedy which usually is with a certain set of shareholders of a company when they have been abused, or you know, their rights have been breached by the majority shareholders. Now, one of the important things which we need to take note of is that what is the threshold to maintain an operation mismanagement petition. Operation mismanagement, which is prescribed under 241, 242 of the 2013 Companies Act. What is the threshold? So I assume everyone knows what is the threshold, and I say this to Pallavi, Abhilaksh, Anirudh, Avdut, Samir Bhai. I mean, we all know, right, that 10% is the minimum shareholding requirement.
Yes.
Right? And obviously, there's an alternative also that, you know, a certain number of members, either of the two. So,
right, 1/10 of the members.
Correct, 1/10 of the members. So basically, that is the threshold requirement. Now, we will appreciate that in a lot of NCLT litigations, this preliminary objection is taken, and a lot of NCLT cases, operation mismanagement cases, are first heard on this preliminary objection. And only when the court is satisfied that, you know, the preliminary objection is, adjudicated in the favor of the petitioner, does the suit start, does the petition start on merits, the operation mismanagement. So now there is one interesting thing. Samir Bhai, do you want to contribute something? Anyone else? Or, you know, should I carry on?
Continue, Roshan, I think.
Do carry on at this point.
All right. So now, you know, the interesting thing is that when a particular petition is filed before a tribunal, what will constitute that 10%? Let us say I have been duped of 5% of my shares. My holding in the company was 10% on 1st January 2020, or let's say 1st January 2019. The holding of Roshan Santhalia in Blackrobe Chambers and Company was 10%, assuming for a moment. And Mr. KV fraudulently deprives me of 5% of my shares. Through some way, you know, I'm not going to deal with the merits, and, you know, in some way he deprives me of 5% of my share, he dilutes me. Let's say because he's a majority shareholder, he dilutes me. When he dilutes me, the remedy that I have is to approach the NCLT under 241, 242.
Right.
But the day I approach NCLT, I'm only on 5% because I have already been diluted. Right. So the first question is that, will my petition be maintainable? Because I am today only on 5%. I am not on 10%, which I was originally there at. Now
I will answer this.
Bharat, let me continue. Whenever you want to comment, you know, I will stop.
Yes.
Whenever you want to make a submission, I'll stop. You can come in. Okay.
No, you start. You complete.
Then I'll complete, and then I'll give the floor to you. Okay.
Yes.
So basically, so yeah, 5. I am diluted. I am now today on 5%. When I'm today on 5%, then the first thing that KV is going to say as a party respondent before the NCLT, that this guy cannot maintain the petition because he doesn't have 10%. But the law is settled on that point, that the percentage of the shares which were prior to the alleged dispute will be the relevant percentage for the purposes of calculating, or for the purposes of ascertaining maintainability. So if my allegations are that I've been, you know, diluted to the extent of 5%, and my original shareholding was 10%, therefore my petition will be maintainable, because the status before the alleged dispute took place will be seen qua the maintainability of the petition. So to that extent, you know, the law is clear. Now, in that light, let us...
One second. Roshan, could you repeat the last bit, which you just said?
I said that, you know, the maintainability of my petition will be decided on the basis of the share that I had pre-dispute. Like, okay, I'll explain this. 1 January 2019 is when I enter into the company as a shareholder. I have a shareholding of 10%. Okay. And when I have a shareholding of 10%, me and KV we work for 3 months, we work for 6 months, let's say. And, everything is, jolly well, and, everything is hunky dory. And at the 7th month of, the entire dispute, of the 7th month of the entire operation of the company BlackRock Chambers, I realized that KV has diluted me. I realized that KV has now made me a 5% shareholder and made himself a 95% shareholder. Now, how exactly dilution happens is a chapter of another day. And I would love to, also cover that with you guys, because my team is working on that proposition. And, we will be coming up with that. I mean, I will be doing that firstly at my chambers, and then I will definitely want to do an IDR session also as to how exactly dilution happens. So in this case, let us say by July 2019, I've been diluted to 5%. And I go to the court in August 2019 crying and saying to the court that, listen, this cheater, this, fraudulent guy has diluted me without my consent. I don't know how many of you have seen Social Network, the movie which describes how Facebook was built.
Yeah.
So, the minority partner was diluted without his consent by Mark Zuckerberg, right?
Yeah.
So that is the same example that I'm using. So in this case, when I will go to the NCLT in August 2019, the NCLT will say that, listen, you don't have 10%. When you don't have 10% today, you're already only have 5%. KV has 95%. How will you maintain your petition? So to that, my answer would be that, Your Honors, it is settled position of law that for the purposes of this petition, the shareholding that I had in the month of January 2019 will be seen, not in the month of July, what I have in July 2019, because my allegations have to be assumed to have been erased for the purposes of maintainability. Am I making myself clear?
Roshan, I'll only take a minute here.
Just 1 second. Samir bhai, have I made myself clear?
Yeah, you have. But Roshan, here's the thing in this scenario, and you guys can help me out with this. Remember the Cyrus Mistry order? See, technically, he had only around 2% or thereabouts of the actual shareholding, because whatever they held in Tata Sons, the Mistry and Sons, was predominantly pref shares. So,
are you talking about waiver? Are you talking about waiver?
Yeah. So why won't waiver apply in your case?
Waiver will apply. Waiver. I was coming to waiver, and probably Bharat was also prompting me towards waiver. Okay, is that right, Bharat?
Yes, that's what I was saying. Okay. That that you always, because in big companies like Reliance Industries and all that, apart from the promoter, no other group may hold 10%. That there are many line of judgments to say that even if I'm 0.5%, it's a very big investment. Not everyone in big listed companies can hold 10%. Like if you look at the present case, Pankaj never raised this argument, but no other shareholder other than the Oswal family can ever hold 10% in the company.
Very valid point, Bharat, and thanks for the contribution.
Just to add to what Bharat said, so this is like way back. Remember when the Coal India IPO happened? So one of the funds that had invested in Coal India was this American fund called TCIF. They had a phenomenally low number of shares in Totem, but they were also allowed to go and press a case again for operation and mismanagement when the entire scam came out and everything happened. Of course, that case was thrown out on merits later on, because they're like, buddy, this is not the
yeah. So Samir bhai, we understand that. So basically, I have a question. Is the waiver automatic in such cases, or waiver still has to be pleaded? I believe the ground. No, hear me out. I believe the case for waiver is stronger because the corpus of the company is very big. That's what Bharat you're saying, right?
Right.
Okay, all right. So that sounds good. Yeah, waiver is fine. Waiver is absolutely there. I was talking about the 10% rule in terms of the statute and in terms of the general regulation. But you're right. Waiver has to be argued in the same breath or submitted in the same breath.
Yeah.
So I think we are good with this now. Now, Bharat, if you can take us back to the Oswal facts and what exactly Oswal held.
So I'll just say one thing, Rochan. Just a
It's your
quick
floor now. It's
example,
your
right?
floor. It's your
Yeah, I'm
floor.
saying only quickly one thing I would like to say. You were talking about dilution, and we'll do it on a day length. But see, to my limited knowledge, Roshan, let's say Black Robes has 100 shares, right? So to constitute 10% for you, you will have 10 shares, right? That will be 10%. If total shares are 100 and you hold 10 shares, you have 10%. So the only way of dilution is when KV issues another 100 shares of Black Robes to himself or to anyone else, and the total issued share become 200. Now automatically with your number of shares will remain same, but your percentage will go down. So dilution is by virtue of issuance of new shares.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, is there any link to what you just said and what we discussed before?
No, what I was trying to tell you is that dilution, how the dilution happens. So when you plead that I have 10%, you will have to say that my 10% is because I'm challenging that allotment being illegal. So hence you will have
Yeah.
to see pre-allotment to say that I held 10% because this allotment is bad. So I am holding 10%. So that's how you
Yeah,
maintain it.
Bharat, I
So
think I
this
think
is,
both of us are on the same page. That's fine.
yes,
Can
yes.
you
So
get back
now,
to the Oswald
yes,
ratio?
yes. So
Can you please get
now,
back?
yes, I'll get back to this. Now, what happened is NCLT said no, his shares is his thing is maintainable, petition is maintainable because he holds because he has a legitimate expectation to get 9.97% by way of inheritance, and 0.03% is what he actually holds. So he has 10%. So this case does not involve any application for waiver and does not have any judgment or ruling on the waiver. Simply, he did not plead waiver, so he could not do it at a later stage. So we'll leave as far as the waiver is concerned, we'll leave it there only. So
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah, yeah.
so our argument before NCLT was, see, look, whether he is entitled to 9.97% or not in view of the nomination is to be decided by the civil court. If you already say that he is entitled to this, then you have decided the civil suit which is prior in time and which has a status quo order.
Correct.
So NCLT neglected this argument, and NCLT relied on the judgment of the first judgment, in fact, on the subject of worldwide agencies versus SK Desor, wherein the issue of in earlier, see, 241, 242 is the section in Companies Act 2013. Earlier it used to be 397, 398. So NCLT, relying on the judgment, will go back to this judgment. It was part of the compilation. Said no, this issue of inheritance can be decided by us, and this petition is maintainable. And then NCLT also took a similar view and in fact went ahead to comment on the nature of nomination, saying that according to NCLT, nominee is holding shares on behalf of everyone, not in isolation or not in exclusion to all. In fact, they decided the civil suit in a summary matter. And then, they said, but we are still not deciding the issue as to the estate. Then all the two companies and Mrs. Oswal came in and appealed before this Supreme Court. So basically, the moot question is when there is a civil suit pending, can the question as to the maintainability of 241, 242, or as to the inheritance of shares can be decided? So now, in this judgment, it has been held that civil court is the
आज तो
one
तुम
which
बेटा
will.
आज तो तुम पूरे फॉर्म में हो भरत, हाँ?
No, no, no. Is it?
Absolutely clear, absolutely spot on, brilliant. Please go on.
Thank you. So in this matter, Supreme Court, Justice Arun Mishra said, look, I really don't know whether nominee, Mrs. Oswal as a nominee, will be entitled to have these shares or not. But today, it is the High Court which will decide this issue, whether Pankaj Oswal, being a legal heir, is entitled to this or not. See, everything revolves around Section 72, wherein it says that nominee will have the right, a nomination will have an overriding effect over any other testamentary document. So let's say that if someone produces a will and I am a nominee, still the authority or the company where the DMAT is there will have to recognize nominee over the will or over the general rules of Hindu Succession
Are you
Act.
serious? Is this settled? proposition of law.
No, it's not settled, but Section 72 provides. See, we had two
No, but
questions.
Bharat, just a second. This is a very interesting question that you just raised. Let us say that X has 5 crore worth of fixed deposits in his bank account.
See, bank account.
Hear me out.
I get your point. See, I'll clear the air for you, Roshan.
No. I want to seek an answer from you. You are making a very interesting issue. Please assist me on this, and you might be of help to me.
Please.
X has 5 crore worth, and guys, anyone who thinks that I'm going on a tangent or what I'm saying is not probably relevant, then please interrupt me. Okay, I am not the moderator of this session. I'm just another guy. So just interrupt me. But my question is that X has 5 crore worth of fixed deposits lying in Corporation Bank. X dies on, let's say, 2 January 2019. X has 2 sons, Y and Z. X has nominated Y in his fixed deposits. That Y, in the light of Corporation Bank's fixed deposits nominee holder, the entire 5 crores will go to Y, his elder son, after his death. But X has also made a will in 2018 where he says that the entire 5 crores will go to Z after his death, which means that his nomination with the bank is in complete contradiction with the mandate of his will, which he has executed. Now, in this case, Bharat, what will prevail?
Nah, see, I'll tell you. That's what I was saying, Roshan. As far as bank accounts are concerned, the proposition is clear that nominee is holding it on the behalf of all the legal heirs, not to the exclusion. That's the first judgment of Supreme Court called Saraswati.
But what if in the will the executor is also Z? Let us say in a will, everyone knows there are 2 parts: executor and the beneficiary, right?
Right.
What if the executor is also Z and the beneficiary is also Z? Then would it not override or sweep the bank nomination?
Bharat, can I come in?
Yes, please,
Yeah,
please come in. Please come in.
See, I've not done a case on this, but I can speak from my family's experience. My grandfather, when he passed away, my father, being the eldest, was the nominee for all of his accounts and demat accounts and yada yada. He was also the executor of his will. So, as Bharat rightfully said, his capacity in that regard would be of a trustee, that everything came to him, and then it was his job to then execute it in accordance with the will. So that I'm just pointing out what happened practically speaking. Touch wood, in our family there was no contest to it.
No, but Samir bhai, the question is that what will happen in a case when the mandate of the will is in complete contradiction to the mandate of the nomination?
It will go to nominee, Roshan. In view of
Is there law on this?
There is a clear-cut judgment of Saraswati Devi, Supreme Court. I'll share it with you.
That will be very helpful, Bharat.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Actually,
So 3 issues are settled by Supreme Court, Roshan: bank lockers, right? Shares, right? And another thing, I think banks, lockers, and there's one more thing which has been settled, that nominee is only a trustee. Insurance policy. Even in the insurance policy, nominee is only a trustee for all other legal heirs.
That is something we know, Bharat. That proposition of law I know since the last 6 years.
But that's what I'm saying.
Is the judgment that you're saying clear on the point that there is a contradiction between the will and the nomination?
Yes. No, it says that nominee, the judgment which I am referring to.
No, that is different, Bharat.
Yes. I get your point. So you are saying whether you will write to bank that in view of the will, please transfer the money in my account, or bank will automatically transfer it in the account of the nominee. Is it correct? Is it what you are saying?
Do you have a judgment on this?
No, not on that subject.
All right, fair enough. Okay, we'll go on.
Right.
But I understand. I appreciate what you're saying. You are saying logically what you're saying is correct. I understand. Logically, you might be correct, Bharat. But there is a different force when you cite a judgment.
Right,
so,
right.
And
I had a doubt here.
Yeah.
As Bharat said that this person nominee shall be in the capacity of a trustee only. So will he then be under a mandate to distribute the properties according to the will?
Yes.
Yes. Can I just add to that?
So then, actually, nomination cannot be against.
Sorry.
Samir bhai, sorry. Please complete. Samir bhai, please complete.
No, I wasn't there. Somebody else was wanted.
Yeah, Samir, I was just adding to you So I am presently contesting a case in which I've applied for a succession certificate, and there are some bank accounts. So practically, what now happens is the banks follow the Saraswati judgment, and they say that the nominee is like a trustee. So what they do is that the nominee can go and withdraw the money, but at the same time, the bank makes them fill a indemnity form. And during the succession certificate proceeding, if you withdraw, then that indemnity then comes into play.
That if any other legal heir has a valid
Samir
claim or a
Samir
court
bhai,
order.
I'll take 2 minutes and answer your question. If there is a will and if there is a nominee, then what will happen is that after the death of X, the nominee will get the benefit of the entire account. So what will happen is, let us say the death takes place on 2 January 2019, then the corporation bank will disburse the money to the nominee of that particular account, and that nominee will, let us say in a period of 1 month or 2 months, distribute the proceeds to everyone who's the beneficiary under the will. So nominee will only be an interim trustee pending the distribution. Are you getting it, Samir bhai?
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you. Acha, just to add
But
to this,
I think your doubt was this only.
No. My doubt is okay. I'll just.
Yeah, I think your doubt was
query.
this. Yeah.
I have another query. So this is a case that I am dealing with currently.
Just one second before you complete your query. Bharat, I will also search this. You also search this. I think our proposition with regard to the fact that when the mandate of the will is in complete contradiction with the mandate of the nominee, then what will happen? I think I will also search it. Okay.
Right. We'll do it. See, irrespective of the practical aspect that money will go to the nominee,
Yeah, we will do it.
and you will claim it later, we'll do it. Right.
Samir bhai, yeah, please. Samir bhai.
So there's this matter which came before me. My team is gonna start looking at it. So it's a pretty strange set of affairs. This one gentleman passed away. Again, same demat accounts, nominee, yada yada. So all of his bank accounts were given to his eldest daughter and his wife, who are in India at the moment. So the eldest daughter was a nominee for all of his monies and yada yada. He has 2 daughters, a son and his wife, and as the people who were left behind, who it was bequeathed to. The eldest daughter now is now fighting with the other siblings regarding how she's fighting over the will. The issue here is pretty weird, that she's been actually using the money which she got from the bank accounts as a nominee to fight against her siblings. Now,
so then in that case, she is liable under section 406, read with 420 of the Indian Penal Code.
Plus, the person who has the will is also, will also ask for rendition of accounts and the money.
Yeah, but that is a civil remedy that will take donkey years.
But now let me tell you, like you are advising Sameer, this Pankaj also filed an 406 and 420 against the mother and director of the company. So, the police saw all those papers and did not register an FIR.
No, the facts are different. Oswal facts are different.
I'm saying everyone uses the criminal angle these
No.
days
I will not let you prevail on this. Oswal facts are different. What Samir bhai said is different.
No, I am saying that generally people these days.
Generally नहीं होता वकील वकालत में भाई अलग
Pallavi would the issue.
मैं और भरत हम लोग arbitration में भी ऐसे ही लड़ते हैं तो आप लोग surprise
I am saying, Pallavi, you will recall our conversation today regarding this matter. That, people try and expedite to get their payments by one way or the another. Like my client.
Bharat, that is a wrong example. No, Bharat, Samir bhai कुछ और बोल रहे हैं. Samir bhai बोल रहे हैं कि nomination होने के बाद sanctioning हुई है. Nomination होने के बाद sanctioning हुई है.
हाँ, आप समझे नहीं ना?
वो ये civil नहीं है, ये civil नहीं है, ये criminal है. ये कोई short circuiting नहीं है, ये expedition नहीं है.
It may be breach of trust, but I am saying, suppose you go to the civil court, right? That I misused the money. Obviously, I'll be rendered accountable to give it to you back with interest and everything. But nonetheless, we'll not go there, Sameer. Yes, you can file for
Samir bhai, Samir.
Actually, yeah, thanks, Roshan. It's actually, but it's pronounced Samir, yeah.
Samir, right, Samir. So, So now I'll get back to my case.
I'm
that
sorry,
I
I'm
didn't
sorry,
just-
I'm sorry. I get excited, but me
No,
and
no,
Bharat
no,
have
no.
fought
It's
enough.
good. Yeah,
Me
see,
and
I
Bharat
think
have
that
fought enough before the arbitrator, and now the arbitrator is also sick and tired of our fights. So that's fine.
right. So he says, why don't you just go out, have a cup of coffee since you know each other, and tell me what is to be done in the matter.
Yeah, I think we can get back to Oswal now, Bharat, please.
Right. So now what happened is that what judge said is the matter is before the civil court. You'll have to go to the civil court and get your shares, get your shares adjudicated, your suit decided, and then you are free to file 241, 242 if court holds that you are entitled. Now see, there are four judgments. One is worldwide agencies, wherein the court, Supreme Court said no legal heirs can maintain a petition under 397, 398. I will go into that judgment also, but why it was differentiated is in that case there was no dispute between the legal heirs. The dispute was only between the legal heirs and company. There was no dispute amongst the legal heirs. In our case, there is dispute as to entitlement amongst the legal heirs. So NCLT cannot look into it. That's first judgment. Then second judgment is SAS, which has been referred by
No, acha,
Samet.
Bharat,
Right.
SAS judgment, you need to give me 5 minutes. I want to make some points for SAS.
Okay, please come.
And unless you want to cover any other judgment,
See, so we have done worldwide. Now, worldwide clearly says that company court will have jurisdiction under 397, 398, as far as it refers to rectification of register. But as compared to if I have to distinguish worldwide agencies with the Oswal case, then the difference is therein the mother and the daughter. The daughter had executed a NOC in favor of the mother that I agree these shares should be given to my mother, but company was not accepting it, right? So there was no dispute amongst the family members or legal heirs. But in the present case, the dispute is pending before the court. So that's how the Supreme Court in this Oswal judgment has distinguished that judgment. Now, second landmark judgment on this subject which was shared is it is Sangraminish Gaikwad versus Shanti Devi Gaikwad. It's a long judgment, but I'll refer to a particular para, right, wherein it has been clearly held by the Supreme Court that look, in the company jurisdiction, right, you cannot claim the entitlement if there is a dispute between legal heirs as to certain number of shares. Then you will have to go back to the civil court, and company court will not have the jurisdiction. In this, the company court, which was high court earlier before the NCLT, decided the issue as to the entitlement of shares between legal heirs. And then Supreme Court said, no, that approach is wrong. It has to be done by the civil court and not by the company court. So basically, Sangramish Gaikwad is the judgment which supported us right throughout in this matter in the Supreme Court to say, because this is also a Supreme Court judgment, wherein it was held that it is a civil dispute and it has to be decided by the civil court, not the company court. So I'll just read para 149 for all of us. It says a dispute as regard right of inheritance between the parties is eminently a civil dispute and cannot be said to be a dispute as regards of operation of minority shareholder by majority and mismanagement. Further, this has to be decided in a suit. So this is what has been held in this Gaikwad. In fact, other three judgments which we have given say that NCLT will have jurisdiction. Apart from Gaikwad, Gaikwad is the main judgment to say that civil courts will have jurisdiction, not the NCLT. SAS and Ammonia and Worldwide said no, company court, NCLT will have jurisdiction. So I think this is what I have to say on this, Roshan.
Thank you, Bharat. Thank you, Bharat. Thank you. All propositions captured well. मेरे को बस एक मन में ये बात आ रही थी कि पार्लियामेंट्री डिबेटिंग भी स्टार्ट होना तो मजा आएगा भरत के साथ लड़ने में.
नहीं मैं तो I have never done it. I'll tell you. See, I had done few moots in my college. I am from Amity, so moot was only done so that I could not attend college for 2 months. You know, I used to have. I'll tell you. I used to have a team wherein I used to tell them, "See, let me try. I will thank you. if I get selected, then I'll not come to college. Noida for
लेकिन
2
भरत
months.
तेरे को तो डिबेट पक्का करेंगे यार, मजा बहुत आएगा। बहुत मजा आएगा, बिकॉज क्या है ना कि सीखते हैं यार, मैं तेरे से सीखता हूँ, तू मेरे से सीखता है, एंड इट्स ऑलवेज अ
Exactly, that's
लर्निंग
the purpose
प्रोसेस।
of this group. See, this group has been very helpful. Now, let me just end up, Roshan, by
हाँ, sure.
saying that look, for bank accounts, for lockers, right? The proposition is settled that nominees are trustee. But as far as shares are concerned, right, demat account is concerned, our case is that by virtue of section 72, which was earlier section 109, the nominee will not distribute it. The nomination will have an overriding effect because it has 2 witnesses, and nominee is entitled to shares in exclusion to others. This proposition is pending before the Supreme Court, right? Already pending, leave granted. And now Supreme Court will ultimately decide whether nominee in case of shares is entitled to it in exclusion to everyone or not. So in fact, we are wanting to, be a party to that case also in Supreme Court. That judgment is very important. I'll share that with you as well. That's a
Sounds
lead
good.
case on shares, first in India. I mean, in Supreme Court.
Sounds
To be
good, sounds
decided.
good, Bharat. Not
Right,
just
I'll
are you
conclude
in
it.
good form today, you've also covered the entire subject very well. So thank you for this, and I'm so glad this is being recorded. I'm sure whoever wants to, kind of deal with these propositions will definitely benefit from this entire, session. I will just take about 10 minutes and highlight some of the important points from one of the best judges of Delhi High Court, in my opinion, Justice Pratibha Singh. The clarity that she has in her head and the clarity which is there in her writing is absolutely brilliant. Now, what I can't do is I can't minimize my Zoom because the session is being recorded. Pallavi, how do I open a judgment on my?
Screen share.
One
No, no,
second,
no,
Roshan, I'll just make you the host, then you can do that. Just give me 1 second. So you are the host now, you can do it.
Thank you. This one. It says you cannot minimize Zoom when you're recording this meeting. So, just 1 second. I'll open it without minimizing it. Just 1 second. This PC. Desktop. IDRF. No discussion. This will discuss 2020. SAS hospital. So I just slept for 3 hours last night, which is why I'm shouting at the top of my throat. अंदर से कुछ ऐसी. I hope I'm not too loud on the microphone.
No.
Okay. सामिर भाई, आप क्या रात को 4 बजे वो जगते हो या 4 बजे सोते हो? Oh.
I was on mute. Yesterday, for the last few days, I've been staying up because my stupid clients from the US are timing ही पूरी खराब कर देते हैं यार.
सही है. So basically, if everyone can have SAS hospitality, I can do a screen share also. Just 1 second. Let me try and do a screen share. Share screen. Can everyone see the screen now?
Yes.
All right. So I will just straight away come to the propositions. And the central argument of this judgment is as to how exactly the 2013 Act is different than 1956 Act. What is the difference between the powers of a tribunal under the 2013 Act vis-a-vis the powers under 1956 Act vested to a company law board? And the point which Pratibha Singh drives home beautifully is that the NCLAT, which has been constituted under the 2013 Act, is having a much wider ambit. The ambit is much wider, the hinterland is much wider, the powers are more stronger, which is why, there is a clear marked distinction between the tribunal under the 2013 Act and the CLB under the 1956 Act. So if straight away we can come to, just 1 second. Yeah, so the broader proposition which has been discussed in this judgment is as to when can we say that a tribunal will not have jurisdiction to decide a case. So what was happening was that until 2013 Act came into play, there were a lot of disputes which were being relegated by the company law board to civil courts, saying that, listen, look here, we are summary jurisdiction. We are a jurisdiction who decide only on the basis of affidavits. We don't have the power to take evidence. We don't have the power. I mean, in usual course, we don't take evidence, although they do have some exceptional powers, which is why I correct myself. In usual case, they don't take evidence. They conduct their proceedings by way of a summary jurisdiction, and therefore, they are not in the best position to be able to decide title disputes, to be able to decide disputes which will require cross-examination, to be able to decide disputes which will require proving, proof of documents. So therefore, between 1955 and 2013, a lot of cases of rectification, of setting aside illegal share transfers were filed before this CLB. And the CLB was clearly of the opinion that, listen, you go to the civil court, we are not deciding a title dispute here. We are simply not deciding a title dispute here. So obviously, the lawmakers took note of this. When the 2013 Act came, the Act was drafted in such a manner then that it encompasses a very broad jurisdiction to the company code, which is the NCLT now. At the same time, the summary nature of the jurisdiction was not taken away. So the proceedings under NCLT are still summary in nature. But now that the powers of the NCLT have been so strengthened that it can even decide some title disputes. And the question as to what exactly it can't decide now is something which is not very clear. Probably, it will be made clear in the going future. I mean, this is subject to correction, and Bharat might know better than me on this. But as far as I know, that it is not very clear as to what is not within the purview of an NCLT court, qua the matters relating to share title disputes, whether X is the owner of the share certificate of Y, or Z, or whatever, Falana Dimka. So now, in light of this, I would just like to request you guys to, and I'm not going to read it out here during the course of this session because that I think is futile. But if everyone can read para number 27, para number 21 on page 8. Para 21 on page 8 is very important. Internal para 31 on page 9. Internal para 31 on page 9 is very important. Then para 23 on page 10 is very important. Then para 25 and 26 on page 10 is very important. And finally, 27, 28 are very important. These are the paragraphs, in my opinion, which all of you should read. And after reading of these paragraphs, what will be crystal clear is this, that NCLT now has a lot of additional powers, like powers to, hold someone guilty of its own contempt, powers to the extent of, there is an appellate specific procedure. I believe when the CLB used to, issue a wrong order, the remedy to the appellant lied under section 10F before the High Court, but not before NCLAT. NCLAT being a special statutory creation means that the 2013 code is in a way a completely different mechanism and a special mechanism in itself, which is why its purview is much broader and which is why its powers are much broader, so much stronger. So this again, this is in my own words, and when you will read the judgment, you will, get the feel of it. And one very important thing is that earlier, rectification could only take place when there were some procedural defects in, in getting the share transfers done. But now, even substantive defects or substantive malpractices can be addressed under section 59. which is section 59 of the 2013 Act, which is equivalent to section 155 of the erstwhile Act, that is the 1956 Act. Both the provisions are more or less in pari materia. They're not exactly in pari materia, but more or less they are in pari materia. So the sum and substance being that now today, if your client comes to you and says that, listen, I have a dispute wherein I think that these shares belong to me, but my brother is saying, or my friend is saying, or my partner is saying that no, these shares belong to him, then this dispute can very well be redressed by you without going through that lengthy 5-year trial before a civil court. You can go to a company court and get an order within 1 to 2 years. So I think that on that point I can conclude. I think it's time also, unless it's open for any questions. Anyone wants to have any questions?
So I agree with Roshan, because what's the point of having NCLAT and NCLT if you're not going to follow section 430? Because section 72 ka issue under Companies Act should actually be with NCLT rather than the civil suit.
Correct. So I think we are
See,
good.
what will happen is, Roshan, if the Supreme Court decides the issue of nomination, right, that, nominee will split it among the legal heirs. And, see, I'll just give one example, pardon me, before we conclude. Let's say that one of the legal heirs approaches the company court saying that by virtue of this will, kindly give me shares, right? Kindly rectify the register. But other defendants have a defense that this will is forged and fabricated, right? Then it is not the company's court, NCLT, which will decide. It is the probate where it will be decided whether the
Very interesting, Bharat. Very interesting. I posed you a question here.
Sorry.
Let me come in, Samin. Let me come in just quickly. In this case, in Oswal case, what was happening was that there was a pre-instituted suit.
Right.
There was a pre-instituted suit. Let us assume for a moment that there is no pre-instituted suit. Let us assume for a moment that the first remedy was the NCLT remedy approached by the petitioner. Then what?
Right.
Then what?
Yes. Then NCLT would have to decide the effect of nomination.
And NCLT will have to decide the effect of will.
Yes, if not will, because will, they can't go into the question of will. They can only decide quasi shares, not the immovable properties vested in the will. See,
so okay, fair enough. But will quay the shares. Will quay the shares.
Will quay the shares or nomination quay the shares.
And now I think in the course of this conversation, we have in a way, come to a logically correct conclusion, which has not been covered by any judgment of the country, as far as I know. Because, I don't think this situation has been dealt by any judgment.
No, not yet. So in fact, whether nominee will get shares or not is also not decided by any court, and not Supreme Court. Bombay High Court has decided that nominee will not get, and Delhi High Court has decided nominee will get. So now it's before the Supreme Court to decide.
So on that high note that we've been able to conclude something logical, I think we can, close the session. It's great that it was recorded. And, I'm sure this will be helpful. Pallavi, will you have the recording with you?
No, it is going to go on cloud. So as soon as the link comes, I'll have it forwarded.
1-2 दिन में आ जाता है लिंक?
अरे नहीं, वो 15 मिनट में आ जाएगा.
हाँ, तो क्योंकि मैं ये खुद भी सेव करना चाहता हूँ. अच्छा रहा, काफी मजा आया.
ठीक है. Okay.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.